What's going on, rock stars? Welcome to the channel, June 9th, 2025. And this story was sent to me by a couple of you in my emails or messages. I appreciate it. And it's about a young man who sold his iPhone to GameStop. If you're not familiar with this, if you have an old phone or smartphone, Android, iPhone that you no longer need, maybe you upgraded, you can take your phone into them and they will buy it from you for cash, or you can trade it in towards the purchase of other goods. Now they do lowball, pretty low. It's not the lowest I've seen, but it is pretty low. They have to make room, leave room to make profit. I, in fact, about 5 to 7 years ago, used to actually buy those devices from GameStop. They would take all these in at their store on trade and they would put it out for a buy list and you could buy from them. And I used to do it and have room to make money. So that tells you how low they were probably paying for some of the iPhones at the time. Well, this one out of Hillsborough, New Jersey is a little bit different because the young man that sold his iPhone to them did so under bad circumstances. And he suffers from some mental illnesses, which I'm going to go into with you guys in a few minutes. And I just want to do this story because it's a warning that if you have anybody in your family or your friend group or anybody that you're close with that maybe suffers from some of these illnesses or has some of these behaviors, that it's important to keep an eye on them and to watch what they're doing. And things like selling your phone, an important tool to all of us every day that need to call and text and look up stuff on the internet, can happen. And GameStop refused to sell the phone back to them or give the phone back to them or undo the transaction. And when you hear why and what happened, it's a pretty startling story from GameStop. Now, eventually, I'm going to give a spoiler alert here. They do make the transaction right. It's not the best solution, but they do get it right eventually, which is why it wasn't great scenario here. But I want to tell you the story. Let's go over this. And it's, again, out of Hillsborough, New Jersey. And just something like a word of warning, because GameStop is a reseller. They buy stuff, they sell it. And if you sell your merchandise to anyone, be it GameStop or even somebody on Facebook, it's pretty much a transaction. All sales are final, right? You got to be really careful on that. So let me pop the story up. I'll scoot over here and I'll pop the story up. So this one out of NJ.com, True Jersey, and the story was by Karen Price Mueller. And this says Tim Michalik, known as the mayor, and I believe it says dad also, is Marty. And so he's 27 years old. So 27 years old, he's a grown adult, and he obviously is somewhat independent, even though he has quite a few, he suffers from quite a few mental disabilities. He's very impulsive, and he can't think through the consequences of things like a major purchase, or in this case, a major sale, right? So it's what makes Tim Tim, his parents say. He's been diagnosed with autism spectrum disorder, also ADHD as a child, and now bipolar disorder as an adult. So he's got a trifecta here. He suffers from a lot of different things that can make people not make the best rational decisions. In some areas, he's very high functioning, says his dad, Marty. For example, he can drive. In other areas, he needs a lot of assistance with life skills, independent living, and even his medication management. Tim lives in his own apartment in Hillsborough with help, and while he can work, his impulsiveness and intellectual disabilities make keeping a job a challenge. He's prone to exaggerations and avoiding telling his parents about things he thinks might get him in trouble. So a lot of that stuff reverts back to people's brain capacities or brain outputs being less than that of a 27-year-old. He may be having some of those thoughts that a child might have, or an adolescent, right? That's just part of some of those diagnoses. Which brings us to May 24th. Tim called his mother from someone else's phone saying he thought his iPhone had been stolen. They were able to track the phone to a GameStop in Bridgewater. After a little cajoling, Tim said he had indeed did sell the phone to the store for $196.32. His dad had asked why, and Tim said he wanted money for gas in his car and he didn't want to bug his mother, who had already given him $100 for gas. It is clear that his impulsiveness was a key factor and he didn't think of the consequences. So this is what can happen. It seems so simple and such an everyday, mundane task for you or I, but it's things that folks that suffer from these disabilities can get kind of caught up in, doing things that they maybe shouldn't do. They can be talked into things. They can be manipulated. And so you really got to keep a close eye on folks that have that, because they really need our help, right? About 5:30 p.m., less than an hour after the phone was sold, the father and son returned to the store to ask to undo the transaction. Michalik said he explained that Tim has special needs, he made a mistake, and the parents still had $400 of outstanding payments to the carrier for the phone. So it was actually financed. Sometimes when you buy a phone, it's $800, $1,000, they'll give it to you for 2 years for $30 a month or $20 a month or whatever. So they had that, right? They didn't technically even own the phone. It would have been blacklisted. The EIN and the ESN would have been blacklisted to where it couldn't be activated by someone else. But a lot of these stores buy that stuff anyways just to sell for parts. The employee explained that he was not able to return the phone because of their store policy. He indicated that the store was a trade and hold store, that the policy had to follow required the phone to be held for 7 days in the store in case it was stolen or someone else had lost it. That's correct. So they operate somewhat like a pawn shop. So if you're not familiar with how a pawn shop works, when they buy something, they have to hold it for 30 days, actually, at least here in Florida, and that's most states, to allow the police. They have to run it through a system. Every item that comes into a pawn shop has to be put into an inventory system, and that inventory system uploaded to the local police department, and the police check all the serial numbers and all that sort of stuff every day to make sure none of it pops up, and you are required to hold it for 30 days, be it a pawn loan that doesn't come back and collects it, or an outright purchase where they buy the material from you. GameStop only has a 7-day. I believe that's because they don't have a pawn license. They're not a pawn shop. So the buy and sell hold time is generally less. I think it's 14 days here in Florida, but it may be 7 days in New Jersey, which is what it sounds like. I'm not up to date on those laws. The employee said his colleagues had also already wiped the phone clean. That's pretty standard. When we used to take in phones, when I bought phones, the first things we would do we'd actually clear the phone while the customer was with us, because 2 reasons. One, we wanted to make sure all their passwords, their iCloud locks, everything was off the phone. It was completely fresh and new. And also, we didn't want to be accused of going through their phone and pulling out any personal information they might have had, or photos or passwords. We didn't want them to come back later and say, hey, my bank account got hacked and it was in my phone. I think it was you, right? So we would clear stuff immediately, like while they were still in front of us. Very, very rarely did we ever buy something and not reset it right away. Like there was a few exceptions for different reasons, but that just didn't happen. So he asked to speak to the manager. The store manager wasn't available, the employee said, but he could email the district manager. The employee also called the GameStop employee support line. A customer service ticket was open, and he was given that support number. 3 days passed with no word, so he returned to the store, saw the same employee who said the district manager had not responded to the email, and he sent another email and also said the store manager was not available, but he would be in the store the following day. The next day passes without word, so Michalik called the store and spoke to the assistant store manager. The person said he was aware of the situation, also emailed the district manager, and said the store had to hold on to the phone for 9 days. So I'm not clear on whether it was 7, 9, 14. Maybe they weren't either, but there's definitely a hold period on anything that you purchase as a business, as a store. Now, if I go to Facebook Marketplace and I buy it from you and I do it, I'm not legally bound by those rules like other places might be. So it's a little different, a gray area there. He then explained that his son had special needs, still owed money on the phone, called the assistant manager who refused to provide his last name, very defensive and unhelpful. He called the customer service number they gave him at about 6:20 p.m. and got a call back. They did not call until 10 p.m., but he missed it because he was asleep. Fast forward even a few more days to Friday, May 30th, when he called GameStop's corporate number, and someone in the escalations department said that all sales are final. That's probably a policy, and there's reasons for that. There's definitely reasons for that. A lot of it has to do with insurance fraud, a lot of people lying, stolen phones, part phones, locked phones. There's a lot of reasons why all sales are final, and it's a tough policy, but they're correct on that. I wouldn't allow things to be undone either, except in very, very special circumstances, which this probably qualified. They should have dug into it deeper at this point, but the all sales final thing is absolutely a policy that they have to adhere to because there's just a lot of risk, and especially in the cell phone business. Trust me, there's a ton of risk. The district manager. So someone in escalations contacted the district manager to see if anything could be done, but not to expect anything. It's now been close to a week, which he's been without the phone, which is critical to him being safe, cared for, to handle his emergencies. Those kind of people, that's their lifeline. The phone sits locked up in the back of the store because of the combination of rigid policy, centralized decision-making, ridiculous inability for an employee to call a district manager when an issue can't be resolved, and a lack of response from them. again, the policies are the policies, right? And when you sell the phone, I know the kid is, has some learning disabilities, but you do sign paperwork saying all of this, at least if they were doing their job. I made everyone sign papers. So Metallic emailed Bamboozled. If you never contacted Bamboozled, they help people with consumer issues. You can go check them out. It's another story for another time. And they, who is on this story, called Metallic that night around 6 p.m. And while they were on the phone, he got a call from GameStop that went to voicemail at 6:11. And it was the escalations representative. He said he'd spoken to the district manager who said the sale was final, and that was the policy. End of story. Everyone agreed the phone was still in the store, whatever the company policy was. And yes, the website does say all sales are final, but what about extenuating circumstances? I'm sure the website says it because I used to do business with them, and it absolutely did say all sales are final. And when you sell the phone, they give you a piece of paper. You have to fill out all this information. At least that's how it used to be. Even though it was after hours on a Friday night, we hoped someone at GameStop was around. They sent the email to GameStop at 6:22 p.m., and a mere 37 minutes later, he gets a call from the previously elusive district manager. Come to the store and get the phone. Back at GameStop, Tim confirmed the phone was his, and the employee made sure he understood that this was a one-time exception and not to do something like this again. For its part, we're glad GameStop did the right thing in the end. It did not respond to several requests for comments about its policies and what happened in this case. Still, the family's relieved the phone incident is over, but they're angry that no one at any level at GameStop took Tim's challenges into consideration. I agree with that. There are policies, and they're there for a reason, but when it's clear that this isn't one of those stolen phone, shady issues, it's just somebody who, made a mistake, you can help them out. There's always a way. It's frustrating how Tim didn't have his phone. It's key to his safety and emotional well-being. Also frustrating is all the time and effort it took upon this, and it took an email from Bamboozled to resolve the issue. So go check out Bamboozled. Definitely check out this story. I'll try to link them below. What do you guys think? Do you think they should have helped him out better? Do you think they should have solved this a lot quicker? Do you think that the all sales our final policy, it's there for a reason. I'm telling you guys, it's there for a reason. Do you think that that's something they should stick to no matter what? What do you guys think about this? Because as a reseller, I can tell you, whether it's an iPhone or a tablet or a computer, or whether it's, buying boxes of clothing and inventory like I have sitting in front of me right now, like these NCAA college shirts that I bought, I did not do a lot of due diligence on them. I bought them sight unseen. They turned out to be great, and people have bought them from me and loving them. But, when I get stuff home, when I buy things out on the road, when I buy inventory, it's my job to know what I'm getting, and it's their job to know that they're selling me this, and once I get it, it's mine. I've had somebody contact me to buy stuff back from me, and I said no. And there was a long story about that. They even offered to buy it back from me for a quick profit. The problem is that I had paid for the particular merchandise, I had paid like $800, and it was worth like $5,000, $6,000, and I was going to be able to sell it pretty quickly, like within a month or two. So I knew I was going to make a great profit for 1 month. And they called back and said, "Hey, we need to get that back. We'll give you $1,000 right now for it. You'll make $200. I'm like, I've already started working on this. I didn't buy this and put out my $800 to make $200 in profit. It's not worth it for me. If they had offered me maybe like 15 or 2, I might have been like, okay, yeah, let's do it. But I didn't. I said, hey, I'm going to sell this, and I'm sorry, but if you want to buy it from me for X price, fine, but I'm not just going to sell it right back to you for a very little penny's profit. It's not happening, right? And I believe to this day, still to this day, that was years ago, that they figured out that they had made a mistake on how much money they were losing by not selling it for themselves, and they didn't want me to make the profit, so they came back to me yelling and screaming, basically. But yeah, I mean, you have to be careful, and you have to understand that generally speaking, when you sell something to someone else, especially when you sign the papers, it's all sales are final. So I want to see what you guys think about this story. Let me know in the comments section. It's the only way I can hear from all of you. I appreciate it as always. Thank you for watching. Please check out the description box and the pinned top comment below. I'm going to put a couple of cool links, one from Amazon and one from eBay. I don't know if any of you know that these exist, but Amazon has an instant coupon discount page on a ton of stuff that a lot of people don't know exists. And eBay has live shopping now. So I'm going to put both those links below. They're affiliates. They help support me if you buy anything. No matter what you buy, you can shop around, find something. If you do, you do. If you don't, you don't. I appreciate it either way. But I'll put those below, and enjoy your night. Hit the like button. Subscribe to the channel. Come back, watch future videos, and I'll see everyone next time.